Good morning. Good morning,
Morning.
everyone. Uh,
Good morning.
hello. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Before we get started, let me remind everybody that if you do have a camera on your computer, it'd be very nice for you to turn the camera on. I'm not making that a requirement. It would just be nice. Last semester, I made it a requirement because I want to create a classroom environment. We're human beings, and frankly, right now we need humanity wherever we can find it. And it's a little hard when you're looking at a gray box. Also, if anyone does want to chat now and then, they don't have access to a mic maybe as well, feel free to use the chat feature. I know I've said this a few times already. I'm not as good with the chat feature once I'm doing demonstrations for you. Just too many things to look at, but I'm getting better at it, and I'm going to keep working at it. So I want to address a couple quick things. Sala, so that was you, where your little box said iPhone instead of a name. All right, I'm glad you told me that. I'm going to take a note of it. I appreciate that. Also, some of you guys use nicknames somehow. I didn't even know you could do that. You kind of change the name that I'm seeing in your little boxes. And some of them don't match anything on my roster. So if you think you're in that category, you might want to switch your name back to a name that I could recognize. Let me get a couple things out of the way. First off, let me say something very practical, since I mentioned about how I take attendance in this class. So I guess I should start there. Amelia, can I ask you a question? I have an Emily on my roster. Is that you? Amelia, you could turn on your microphone.
Yes, that's me. Sorry, I go by Amelia, but officially it's Emily.
All right, you're covered now. I took a good
Okay.
guess and marked you in that way.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think I have anyone named Kim Killa. Kim, gotcha. So listen, guys, I want to clarify something about attendance anyway, right? As you could tell, I'm a multimedia teacher, so I've taught in media for years, but teaching online only started during the COVID explosion, a couple of months back. And yet it's very natural to me because it kind of goes with the subject matter. But I've had to rethink attendance. So I just want to clarify something because I brought it up more than once, but maybe I've said it in a way that's non-committal because I guess in a way I wasn't really feeling all that committed to a new attendance policy. My old attendance policy was you only got a couple of absences in any of my classes. You never got more than 15% absence and passed my class. To me, it just meant you missed too much work. Of course, back then I didn't videotape everything, right? So it's like back then I would be like, look, you lost 8-9 hours of my class. How could you expect to pass it? But now you don't have to miss it. So, things are changing. Also, I realize a lot of your circumstances now are very, very complex. I think some of you guys are working out in the world, which has got to be a stressor at the moment, even if you're doing it in a smart way. Any number of other issues. Some of you are real crowded, at home with family or roommates or whatever. So I realize there's a lot of complexity that affects when you can take a class or not. So I'm experimenting with not including attendance in my actual grade. So that brings up just a couple quick subjects I want to get out of the way. Does that mean, yay, I don't have to come to class? You have to figure out for yourself a couple quick things. If you're disciplined enough to stay on schedule, in other words, watch each of the videos, don't let 2 of them pile up. Surely not 3. Who's going to watch 6 hours of this stuff, and absorb anything? If you have the discipline to do it on a schedule, there won't be a penalty for it. So some people need to take advantage of that. I'm just saying to anyone in here who's going to do it that way, stay on some kind of schedule, in a tight one. Don't let this stuff add up. See, one of the things is, for example, the web design stuff, we're having fun with it, which is cool to see. So today we're doing more web design, HTML, CSS.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. More HTML, more CSS, same tomorrow. But hear me now, Wednesday we're starting on Photoshop. There's a few reasons why this is critical. One, are we leaving web design completely? No, not really. The midterm's going to be web design with photos though. So we started with the web design skill set. We're going to spend a little while with the photos. Then we'll be, juggling just a little bit so you guys can do the midterm, which by the way is a 4-page website. So if you come to class, you know, for real, you know, in this virtual environment of ours, but in real time, you get to ask me questions. I get to respond to you. I see if the group's getting it or not. If you take it in video, you're a little left out of that loop. But hey, it's nothing to feel bad about. It just means you're going to have to do your best without that advantage of participating live. You could still email me questions, and when I get reasonable email questions, I answer them. Someone asked me to go over 3 hours of material, I don't, you know? So I just want to be blunt. I'm really here to help. I got an open mind this semester. I'm not intending on figuring in attendance to final grades. So why do I take attendance? Which, by the way, I do. I take screenshots and I translate them to an Excel spreadsheet, right? So I know who's here and who's not. Mostly because if someone starts to say, hey, I'm not getting any of this, and I'm like, well, I've never seen you, I could question and find out if the person watched any of the videos, you know, and if they haven't, of course, I'll act like any teacher. I'm sorry, you blew it, you know. On the other hand, if you've been here, and I know that too. But here's what's more important. School needs to know it. So right now, I've got this. Have you guys heard of the verification of enrollment? You know, why would you? But in a semester, the teachers verify that you've shown up. Because if you haven't shown up and you want to back out, you could still back out. There's, I think financial aid has a component in there, all kinds of administration component. You didn't show up at all, so you're not included. You won't get an F. You know, person shows up first day, doesn't show up again, they're going to get an F. So I have to submit those today. And yet a couple of people have not shown up for reasons that are reasonable. A couple of people didn't show up on Blackboard and through no fault of their own. So I'm in the middle of dealing with that. Guys, let me move on because I want to say something practical to you about that. I need to say something else completely, and then I want to jump into the material. So about where we're at right now. Last week, we only had 3 days, but we did a lot. You know, a number of you could already make websites, you know, simple ones, I'll admit, but you could already do that. And so anyone who missed those 3 days, you know, I apologize for whatever caused it. It probably wasn't your fault at all. And yet I'm worried because that's way behind. And we're only doing HTML and CSS today and tomorrow. So if you are, say, 3 days late through no fault of your own, you didn't get the original email because you weren't on Blackboard, not your fault. You still get to make a choice, though. Do you want to try to withdraw from this class? In which case you should tell me right away. I don't know what the rules are, but I could definitely stand up for you and say this person has that right. They were not notified, right? You'd have to let me know, right? So if you want to withdraw because you fell too far behind already, you have to let me know today so I could reach out and do something about it. The decision is yours, not mine. All right, I have to drop that subject and move on to something else. So what I'm going to do because of the videos, and even though this is only week 4, I'm going to have to stop talking about, well, if you don't have this, or you don't, I'm going to have to do like I would in the lab. You know, here we are, moving forward. And anyone who's got individual issues, you have to contact me through email. Some of you have, in rather adult, very mature ways, and I've responded equally. I don't have a computer, or I wasn't notified, or both. I've probably already had correspondence with you. Let me move on to the next subject, though. I need to say something off topic because it is somewhat on topic. This is communication design this whole semester. So the first one's most obvious, right? Let's say right next week, this week, you decide you want to get a web design, a web name, you know, a URL, a web address. So, you know, I'm iraworks.com, right? You've seen your web page there, iraworks.com/BMCC, but it's a rather large website. So let's say in a few days you decide you want to do that. Here's my only concern. When you publish online publicly, anyone who finds you gets to read what you say. So if you're saying helpful things, like here's how to heal the world, this is how I heal myself, you know, this is how I feel about my next door neighbor who doesn't look like me, who I adore anyway, positive things that help us move forward. I'm like, yeah, I taught that person web design. That's the talk. The other hand, the other one's like, kill everyone that looks like this, or kill everyone that wears this kind of uniform because they're all bad. Then I'm like, oh no, I taught this person how to rant even louder. It's bad enough that they could shout on the subway. Now I've given them the chance to have thousands of listeners. So here's an appeal from my heart to yours. I'm going to be very frank with you guys. If you're angry right now, be angry. Be angry as all hell, I'm with you. We got to do something. I was born into this climate. I didn't think we were going to come back around to it. You know, I was born in the 60s, this kind of rioting because people were angry, justifiably angry, regardless how they're expressing it. That's a separate issue, but they're justifiably angry. Things have got to change. And, you know, they did change. Let's not forget, we had Obama as president, and whether you liked him or not, he was a reasonable man and he was a black man. And we didn't think that was going to happen when I was a youngster, you know? And I want to see every race in my class represented in that White House in my lifetime. And I definitely want a woman president at some point. I want to use everybody's hearts and everyone's minds and everyone in this collective culture of ours to move us forward. The people that are pulling us back, I want to shed their noise. I don't want to add to their noise. So anyway, if you take what you learn in my class to communicate, please make it forward moving. You know what I mean? Don't get sucked into this backwards way of looking at things where like hate's the only way out of hate. Obviously that didn't work. I mean, we could think of all the giants who won over their countries. You know, Mahatma Gandhi liberated his people without hurting a single person himself. We could have arguments about this. All I want to say is there is hope, folks. I'm twice your age. I've seen things change. I know this sucks right now, but I got to tell you, if you can imagine, it was worse even in my lifetime, and I'm not old yet. It was so much worse. The thing is, that doesn't mean we should be complacent. And I'm glad you're not. Your generation's not complacent, because you can't be. We still have much further to go. I want to say one last thing on this before we move into designing together. You know, the country's based on people who ran here for one reason or another. So a lot of you have heritages where your family's been really damaged by somebody else, somebody who saw you as an other. And if you're honest about your family history, your people have also hurt somebody else. There's no culture that's innocent, by the way. But if you look honestly at history, just choose a culture, find out where they got hurt and where they were the herder. And then you realize, wow, my people have to grow up just like your people. And we might as well do it together. I went to visit where my family comes from. And, you know, it was very scary for me because everyone was killed off. Now, I don't want to get heavy on you, but no one in my grandparents' generation who didn't run here survived. Luckily, my grandparents ran here. So I went to visit where we came from, both sides of my family. It's a little place called Lithuania, northern. No one ever talks about Lithuania, but that's where I'm from, both sides of my family. But my particular kind were just killed off. And I went there and had to deal with that. I had to deal with the memorials. I had to deal with the graves that were desecrated. I had to deal with no remnant of anyone in my family line existing. No one. But did it make me hate the people when I went there? No. No. They've been abused for hundreds of years, that country, from everyone nearby, everybody nearby. They were just so filled with fear that, of course, they didn't know how to protect anyone. They couldn't protect themselves. But they're doing better now. And that's what I care about. What could we do to make things better now? And what could you do to make your kids' world a little bit better, right? It looks screwed up right now, doesn't it? You know, whichever way we look, COVID, ecology, racism in the police force, for God's sakes, racism in the White House, my God. But you know something? Watch the elastic springback this can create if we make sure that it does. Right? Watch what happens when this madman, I'm sorry to Republicans in the room, I really apologize. I shouldn't do this. So I'm going to stop. This person in the White House that many of us don't trust, right? Don't be surprised if it's his last leg. And then it's up to us to blow the smoke away, pick each other up off the ground no matter what we look like, you know, put bandages on each other no matter what we look like, and move forward into the future that we all have in our hearts. So I'm going to shut up now. Let's get back to web design. I have a captive audience. Sort of. People could turn me off and I wouldn't even know, so I guess I don't. Anyway, my heart goes out to yours, your generation, and mine. We've suffered enough by now. Let's get through this together. All right, web design. Folks, I'm going to screen share, and I want to show you some stuff, and then we're going to make stuff together, as we'll do every day of my class. I'm screen sharing, and I get these 2, 4, 5 options on choosing desktop so that I could show you whatever I want. That's what desktop means. And I've prepared this. So I want to say something to anybody who hasn't been here for every class, right? Last time I could say this, right? Because I'm pushing it too hard. You need this web address to survive. iraworks.com/BMCC. Everything's in this one menu. Can't go wrong. You come here and you see everything you need. The newest lesson, All the ones before it have videos. So I'm going to class 4. All right. We're becoming experts at this quickly. So you could see each class, this section gets smaller until I won't mention these things at all. I'll expect everyone to know what to do, right? You get the handout first. You go to Zoom. About computers, I want to say just the last thing. I have put in an order for the one person that asked me. I got one more person who kind of asked me, but I was also buying one. So I have to figure out what to do. The school's very slow at finding us computers. I'm very disappointed. So the 1 or 2 people in that situation where they don't have the right computer, all I could say is it's up to you whether you want to keep delaying because the videos are there. I'm not going to exercise any deadlines on you. The first homework is being given today, by the way. It is due next week, but under the circumstances, I'll accept, if someone doesn't have a computer, I'm going to accept it late. But you have to make a strategic decision. You know, do you feel like you can catch up or not? If not, you have to consider withdrawing under the circumstances because it might be in your own best interest. So again, after class, if you need some strategic thinking with me about what to do because of that computer issue, let me know. Everybody else, I want to say this. Wednesday, we're starting with Photoshop. Please don't wait till Wednesday to get it, right? And I mentioned last week, so some of you guys got it early. You know, you should, if you haven't, you should try to get it today. So that, again, requires Mac or Windows. And I just want to point this out. We're using Sublime Text again today and tomorrow, and you will be using it on the midterm. So that's still relevant, right? But we've been talking about that for days, so I'm focusing on the next one for a minute. Adobe Photoshop. So bear with me for a second. I need to say something in advance. I need to do it quickly. I'll say more tomorrow if necessary. Adobe owns half the programs designers use, over half, 3/4 of it. And they have this thing called Creative Cloud, sometimes called the Creative Cloud Suite, because the suite is about 10 programs that you get for one subscription. So you subscribe, like to a magazine, to Creative Cloud, the Creative Cloud Suite. And it comes as an app, which is kind of interesting. And I recommend anyone who's gotten it, see if you have the desktop app. If not, you could look it up, the Creative Cloud desktop app. So if you look at it on my screen, let me just see for a second here where my desktop app went, because I'd like to show it to you. You know, maybe I better look at this after class. I usually keep it up on the top of my screen. And you could open, from there you see what programs are available in the suite, the app. You tell it to load 1, load 2, load 3 if you want, or load all dozen, however many there are, right? It even tells you when there are updates, and you get updates. So it's odd, I'll admit. You're not looking for Photoshop. You're looking for the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite first. And ideally, the desktop app that goes with it. It's all easier than it sounds. So folks, I can't go into detail about how to load software, so I got my fingers crossed that it goes well for everybody. So these are the things I need to say about it. Here's the link to get the Creative Cloud Suite through BMCC. Please make sure you use your BMCC email address, not any of your other email addresses, to get the free Creative Cloud Suite. It's only free for the duration of this class. It ends in early July. So please check that out. I want to say one more thing on that subject. Tomorrow, I'm going to include 2 links on the handout to help people get the app, right? Because we're going to use it on Wednesday. So tomorrow's Tuesday. I'll include a video and a text link for anyone who wants to read more about it. Of course, you could always Google it. You know, it's like very, very common. All right. Can I add one more thing? Feel free to turn on your mic and interrupt me at any point and I'll tell you whether I could answer any question on the spot. If not, I'll let you know politely. Okay. I'm imagining some of you guys have been watching the videos even though you come to class. You know, so they're all on the same link. You know, so from now on, this is just a playlist. Just find the most recent one. This is class 4. And you get to the playlist. So here's 3, here's 2, here's 1. These are old ones. I'd ignore these. Just look for the dates. Right, so you're going to see about an hour after class today, class 4, you know, with June 1st on it. All right, let's move on. So I want to tell you what I got in store for you today. If you've been enjoying HTML, That's great. If you enjoyed that little bit of CSS from last week, that's double great. What we need is 2 more things to get basic websites down to a confident level. We need more style, because we just started. So that falls in the CSS category. Again, if you don't know what I'm saying yet, I think you could join in with me today. We'll just keep an open mind till then. And then we need to get photos into the pages. So that is going to involve some Photoshop. As I said, I'm pushing that off a little bit. Today, I want to go over what we've learned faster, and I want to take styling further. So that's our mission. I want to point this out. Here, it's going to say all the time, folder structure, because every single website needs a folder. Thursday, I guess, we talked about it a lot. Jonathan had some good questions for me on that subject. So I just want to mention, you could take as many folders as you want, 10 different websites, 10 different folders, and put them in a big folder called My Websites. And that would still work. But as long as each folder gets each website has its own private mini folder, you're cool. So I'm going to make mine on the desktop right now. If you're going to join me, choose where you want to put your folder now. Please put it where you could get it conveniently. Let me put this aside. So I'm on my desktop and I'm making a new folder. I'm on a Mac, so I like holding down Control and doing new folder, or right-clicking on Windows and doing new folder. And there's my new folder. I'm going to click it once to let the program know which folder I'm talking about. Hang on a second here. This guy is, there we go. I just want to make sure people can see easily what I'm talking about. Here's my folder. I'm going to click it once to select it. Then I click the text one more time. If that doesn't work, I carefully double click on the text. Sorry, I'm talking too much today. I want to ask you to do, well, it's funny, your teacher's bugging today in front of a class. Can you rename it? So I'm just going to, yes, ma'am.
So we're making a complete new folder today?
Every single class we make a website, we need a new folder, right? So you can call it anything you want. I think I'm going to just call mine Class 4-June 1. You can call it anything that makes sense to you, right? And then I'd like you to open that folder and keep it open. So Nicole, I want to mention one of the many reasons why we do this. Every website has an index.html page.
Okay.
And you can't have more than one document by the same name in a folder. Because index means home, so it's like home for which website if they're all in one folder.
Oh,
That's one reason, and there are other even better reasons. Okay. So please leave today's folder out, make sure you have one, and you know how to get to it. All right.
Professor.
Now, yes, did I hear another question?
Yes. You were talking about creating. Yes. You were talking about creating a big folder for all the mini folders. How do you do that?
Well, you know, I'm going to say quickly, but I'm going to ask you if, unless you're an expert, don't start today doing that because it's going to get more complicated. But this is what I mean. Here's a folder, and I could control click inside and make another folder. And I could put 2 folders in my folder if I had a good reason, you know. Or I could take this folder and drag it into another one. So they can be very nested, we call it. Folders and folders and folders. But this class, there's so much to do that's more important. And I got to warn you about one thing. There is going to be one subfolder, but not today. What's going to happen when we start making images for the website, photos, there's going to be a folder that's called images. And the code is going to depend on you having that folder. So we will be working with a root folder. That's the big one, you know, that we're making today. And probably tomorrow or the day after, we'll be putting folders inside. So Kenya, I don't mean to sound cheap. I just don't want to confuse people. You know what I mean? But what I'd say is this. Yes, that?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, let me show you one quick thing about it, and then I'll undo it, right? Watch this. Let's say I wanted to clean up. Right? So I'll often make a folder, and I'll say sort later, because I'm messy. And I'll be like, all right, I better check this one out later. What the hell is that? No, what's this? I don't know what this is. See what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So right now in there, I got all this stuff. So this is what we meant. Like someone might make an MMP100 folder. Later on, take every day's folder and just drop it in there. All right, so let's get back. I'm hoping that everybody's got themselves a simple folder for today, just a plain one that they could identify easily. We need to open Sublime next. So listen, I want to say something quickly to anybody who's missed a lot of class and is jumping in now, right? You're going to have to watch for a while because I can't really hold, I wish I could, but it's not fair to the group when people have been here for, 9 hours already for me to go over too many steps. So I'm going to hope the videos and whatever I narrate today can help. Once you open Sublime Text, if you're looking at old stuff, right, you could hit the red button, and that doesn't mean you're quitting Sublime. It just means you're putting that one page away. So that's only if you're seeing last week's code, right? I'm still in Sublime though, and if you look up at the top of my screen, you'll see the menus begin with Sublime Text. So you could tell I'm still in the program. So I'm going to do File menu, New File. I just want to say very quickly, our computers are behaving differently. So some of you sit down, you open Sublime, you always see a blank page to start. That's kind of nice. Some of you always sit down and you see the last code you were working on, right? So it's about a preference that's hard to find. So I'm just going to assume that everyone get a blank page now. So I want to point something out. We're going to have 3 tools out today. And I said that the last 3 days. We're going to have 3 tools. We're going to have the folder. I'm calling it a tool. The open folder. We got Sublime open right in front of us, Sublime Text, right? And soon we're going to have a browser out, and I'm recommending Chrome. We don't need Chrome just yet. Let's go over the basic code. So if anyone has missed a bunch of class, really hasn't even perhaps seen all the videos yet, just pay extra close attention and join me if at all possible. The web page starts like this, and it ends like this. Sample code is on today's handout, so you can always look at the handout. You don't have to take a million screenshots. Same code's on the handout. Now, remember, you need lowercase letters when you're writing this code, and you need a slash when you're saying goodbye. Guys, I want you to hear something. You're going to learn quickly. So soon, friends of yours who may be web designers say, well, Ira left this out, and he left that out. I want to tell you why. I want to show you the minimum that makes a web page work. And then you could add on it. So I'm not including anything that isn't essential. So once you've established you have an HTML page, you start one of the 2 sections that are largest. There's a head section and a body section. I'd like you to join me and make a head section now. Now that means you start with this tag, you go down a little further, and you close the head section. So this mark is super important to what we're doing. This always means close something, and it's usually the last tag. The head section, just like a person, is followed by the body. Now the head section happens to be rather small, right? And there's only one thing that you always see. Now, by the way, last class we put 2 things in there, so we'll go in there today. The head section gets larger the more advanced we get. But the first element was this one. And I bet you a couple of you may even have memorized this. So I'm going to call this our planets. We'll do a planets groove today. And we'll close the title. I want to say something about this. The code is easy, but if you're typing with me, be exact. It's simple, but it's simple to make a mistake. Right? The title's closed. Don't add any letters in here. And make sure you got that right side bracket. Folks, this head section is done. So you don't go back in it until you have a motive. In other words, you don't put anything before closing head. But when you get advanced, it might look more like this. Different links to secret weapons of yours, different methods, I should say, different methods, engines under the hood. The body tag is where we did most of our work. Let's go to line 5 and start the body. Now, I want you to close the body as far down as you could get while knowing it has to stay inside the HTML container. So in other words, I can get down to here and close it. Now, I want to say a couple specific things about this. If you're doing well in my class, you're looking at this and saying, oh yeah, I got this. What I just did, this is the bones. And you're right. If you're not doing well yet, it's still looking a little bizarre. So let me just clarify something. I'm going to do this quickly. HTML started the show. It's telling the browser this is the language. And this said, I'm done. We went inside And we added a head section next. So let me take this out. Head started it. We gave it room because we know it's going to grow. So I went down a line before I closed it. I'm going to be adding more room as I need it, but the head section came next. It's very small, and the only required element is the title, which we'll see again in a few minutes. But the really important part, though, is the body. So I want to clarify something about this. All your text, your articles complaining about the condition of the world, your poems about it, your music, also your movies and your animations and your games and everything on the web goes in here. So this is what you want to memorize. I want to show you guys something real quickly, just to get people interested in this. I want to point out, this is everything I talked about, that we already did most of this. We're doing some more right here. First things on the handout. You made the folder. These are the 4 biggies I was just talking about. I'm going to stop talking about these as of today. Last time I'm going to talk those up. The 4 biggies: HTML, head, title, and body. Can't go anywhere without them, and you just did them, right? So I'm going to come back here. I want you to put a test sentence in the body just so we can make sure it's working before we do anything more advanced. So you put random words down for now. Now we're going to save this as our home page. So there's 2 critical things that happen now. We're going to save it under one name only and don't use a capital letter. Index.html. And you have to save it to the folder you just made only minutes ago. So let's save. You can do File Menu Save, or Command S if you're on a Mac, or Control S if you're on Windows. So I'm going to do File Menu Save right now. It's going to be looking at the wrong folder. Do not click Save. You're going to get a document by this bizarre name. Bracket HTML bracket. Don't click Save. First, find your folder. I put my folder on the desktop, and here I am on a Mac. So I'm going to the left side, I'm clicking Desktop. Now I can see everything there, including today's folder. Again, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to double click it, but it's very similar on Windows. Now still don't click Save. Then you go to the top and change that goofy name to index.html. Guys, forgive me for repeating myself a lot. It's just that the easy stuff is often what people get wrong, you know, because they're not paying attention to that. But if you don't save it in the right folder, your website will not work. If you don't have a homepage by this exact name, your website will not work. So we have to be very picky about it. All right, let's save it. You know, by the way, the .html part is critical. One person wrote me in an email, it won't show up in the browser, or no, this is what they wrote. Sublime Text doesn't change colors when I save it. I was like, it's because when you saved it, you didn't save it .html. It didn't know what language you were using. It didn't know what colors to use. So if you save it correctly, you'll see the colors change. All right, index.html, and it's in your folder. Now to test it, I want to point out a couple things. First off, right now we have the 3 tools out. Soon we're adding a 4th, Photoshop, in a couple days, but right now 3 tools out. I'm calling the folder a tool because we keep going there. We got Sublime naturally, but you want a free tab in your browser. If you've got Chrome, please use Chrome. If not, use another browser. Firefox, Safari. All right. What I'd like you to do is go to your folder, and I want to say a couple quick words. If you've got Chrome as your default, you're seeing the Chrome icon right now. Unless you saved it wrong, like you didn't write .html on it. It doesn't know it's a web page, you know. But if it's got any kind of icon on it, just drag and drop it into your browser. If it has a Chrome icon, you could still use it in another browser. You can, it doesn't matter. But this is what I want you to see next. Did your sentence show up?
Yes.
So I want to say something to you. There's 2 things you check, then you know you're good, and then you could start to really run, you know, put more material down and get artistic, but you want to test first. So here's the 2 things. You want to see your sentence inside, so you know you got a web page, so you put random words there now, it's what mine says. Then you want to look up on the tab. It should say Our Planets. Now I want to say something about the tabs. So in other words, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tabs out. They all have title tags. One of them says world's best musicians in the title tag. This one here says our planets. So here's my code again. Okay, so folks, if I was taking this class and I was really liking the HTML part, I'd set myself one assignment. I'd memorize this, because it all starts with this. You can't go anywhere without this much. These are what I call the bones. All right, let's move forward though. All right, I want to move quicker. So the title tag says our planets, and now we know the title tag makes the tabs that people see in the browser. So it's really important what you're saying here. Our planets is what I'm writing. I would like you to take this sentence out, and I want to move forward at a quicker rate. So I'm going to do a headline right now. I'm hoping everyone remembers what H1 is. It's the biggest headline, right? So I'm going to write, let's see, our solar system, and I'm going to close the H1. So that's a big headline. Those are, some of you have done this twice with me already. I'm going to put a smaller headline beneath it. Now this does not mean second headline. It just means lower priority. So it's going to be smaller to look at. And I'm going to write Earth, no, I'm just going to write planets, moons, and the sun. And I'm going to close that H2. I think we better test what we're doing, but I do want to point out that once you know the top is written correctly up to body, and the bottom is correct, these last two lines, you're just going to focus on the space in between. So, save, go to the browser, and click refresh. So this is all review. How is everybody, all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is all about being meticulous. You know what I mean? So I got to say, like when I'm in the classroom physically, I could tell there's some people who, by the way, I was not very good at looking at every letter. That's not my usual nature. I'm a kind of like panoramic thinker. But when it comes down to web code, I have to really look at every letter in my code. All right, let's move forward. We need some paragraphs. So I want to get back to the code and do some of that paragraph trick. So guys, listen, I want to say that when you're working on a real website, either you're the writer or someone else is, and they're going to deliver text to you in an email, probably, or a Microsoft Word file. And you're just going to copy and paste. But since I don't have any words to work with today, could you write this? So those of you who were with me last week, which is the majority of you, remember this, L-O-R-E-M, no capital L, lowercase, L-O-R-E-M, and hit tab. So that's the Latin dummy text that's very popular in the world. I'd like you to highlight that Latin, or just one more time, L-O-R-E-M, no capitals, and hit tab. All right. I'd like you to highlight that Latin, Command C, and paste it at least 3 times. So it's going to look more like that. Now I want to mention something. Last class, some of you guys weren't sure why, but your code, your Latin looks something like this. You know, you had 3 lines. That won't break anything. It's not really a problem, but it is confusing. So if you're having that problem right now, I'd like you to highlight all your Latin. And we're going to use this trick that only belongs to this one program. So this is not HTML, this trick. It's a Sublime trick, Sublime text. Could you try Command J? Command J neatens it up, but what it really means is join into one line. So sometimes you need it. If you remember how to make this a paragraph, please do it now. If not, watch me. So to make it a paragraph, I use the famous P tag. So we tried the H1 headline tag. We tried the H2 smaller headline tag, and they each closed appropriately. So once you've made your P tag, before all the Latin, go to the end of the Latin and close it. Please save, and we want to check the browser. So you save it, and every time you want to see a change, you save your code, you go back to the browser and refresh it. So we're still doing review, and this is something we've done 2 days in a row, so this is the third day. I need a second paragraph. And look, since we're only working with dummy text, like none of us could read this, you know, let's just copy the last paragraph, you know, put a duplicate underneath it. Could everybody go back to your code then? And highlight that whole paragraph. I want to mention, if you haven't tried before, you might like to try Command minus or Control minus on Windows to zoom out, and then Command plus or Control plus on Windows to zoom in. So I'm going to back up a little so I can find my paragraph. I'm highlighting it. So we've been doing a lot of copy and paste. Copy and paste always lives under the edit menu up top, but most of us prefer shortcuts. So I don't really want to keep coming here to copy to memory and then have to come back to paste. So I'd rather use the shortcuts. I highlighted this, I do Command C, that's the shortcut, or Control C. And I'm going to go down to the next line. Command V or Control V. Could you please save it, come back, and refresh in the browser? Okay, now I did that very quickly, and I could have done it even quicker for some of you, I realize. And I apologize to anyone who missed some classes through no fault of their own, that might have seemed fast. But we took our time about it in the past, so now I'm going a little quicker. I have promised to keep my code out more often though, so let me just do that. So here we've got a basic page, but now it's got some formatting, we call it. So the content, the actual words, were put between body and close body. We chose to give it one big headline, our solar system. Beneath it, we gave it a smaller headline, planets, moons, and the sun, right? And beneath that, we gave it 2 paragraphs. So let's go over something. This is sort of responsive, meaning that it's responding to the size of the browser. So on a big screen, the paragraphs look pretty scrawny, a little hard to read. On a narrow screen, they're filling up the space. On a phone, you could see they'd be even longer. All right. I want to go over some linking with everybody, so I just want to make sure that everybody's all right. How are we doing today? Still okay?
Okay.
So listen, I want to mention to you, if that's going well for you, please don't see it as small. It's not in any way small. You know, it usually takes people longer to learn this much. So we're in very good shape. You know, we've been very thorough though. So I want to move into linking. So let's think this through for a minute. This website has a tab on top that says Our Planets. And the homepage says Our Solar System. And you can tell the implication is that the whole website's going to be Our Planets. Now, I think we have 8 planets. I'm not really sure. There's been fighting about Pluto for years. But let's say we got 8 planets, right? We know we're all interested in Mars because it's closest to us, so we think we're going to be able to visit it. And we know there's been water there. We're hoping that there's still water hidden underground. So let's say this was an 8-page website. Look, guys, we don't have time to do that. But let's say, all right, there'd probably be home and then one for each planet. So I want to do just a couple of links. I want to do just 3 pages today. We did 4 pages last week. I want to do 3 pages now because I've got new material I want to make time for, right? So let's join me on the next step. What we're going to do is we're going to use this page as the dummy for the other pages. So if you can imagine an Earth page, headline would probably just say Earth. The subhead may say something like, Our Home Planet. And then it would have a couple paragraphs. And right now we'll use the same dummy. So that basically means we could steal this page and make the other pages based on it. But first, we have one more thing to do. Let's go back to the home page. I want you to find your body tag, which is probably line 5 or about there, and make a space underneath it. I'd like you to write this. Home is going to be the link to the home page. Then it's going to say Earth. It's going to be a link to the Earth page. And then it's going to say Mars. And we're going to stop there. Those are going to be the 3 pages for now. Home, Earth, and Mars. I want them right after the body tag, and I want to show you why. So when you add stuff that you didn't save, right over here you see a gray dot to remind you that if you want to look at this, you better save again. So I'm going to save. I like Command S. The gray dot goes away. That means it's saved. So I just go to the browser and refresh it. Home, Earth, Mars. That looks good. So I want to make a couple quick points. First, anything after the body tag becomes the first thing on the page. So I often call the body tag the ceiling. So we put Home, Earth, and Mars right up against the ceiling. Now, I would like you to join me on doing this in your code. Could you separate them now into 3 lines? This is a little bit of a trick, really. I want you to do this and save it. And go to the browser and refresh it. And notice nothing happened. So it's a bit of a trick, like I said. But why? Because if I wanted these to follow vertically, I'd need code that could make that work. Right now, that's not what I want. I moved them to 3 lines for a different reason. I need to do stuff to each of these that's going to take room. So I broke them into 3 lines so they each have plenty of room. And I know my audience isn't going to know the difference. It's going to look like this. All right, join me on the next step. We're talking about linking right now. This is probably the most important evolutionary change in all of communication design. Without the link, we'd still be going in order all the time. But what about intuition? You don't always think in order. You just don't. So we link. If I say to you now, have you ever been in the woods? Right now you're imagining the woods if you've been there. Or if I said, have you ever swam in the ocean? You know, you're probably remembering some particular place. So you link. You don't go in order. Your mind links. Let's make an HTML link. So right before your home page, I want you to do exactly this, your home link. So you'd written the word home just to see what it would look like, but now we're turning it into a real link. And on the right, I'd like you to do this. Now, please be very careful that you're not using capital letters, that there is a space between the A and href. Don't forget these quotes. And be very careful about your brackets too. The closing tag just closes A, so it's simple. I'd like you to do the same thing to the next 2. Every link on the website is going to share this same pattern. And we'll be doing this on the midterm, which probably starts week after next. I'd like you to save these. So you made these changes. You get back to the browser and refresh it. They look like links now, right? They look like very undecorated links. And they're all purple.
Professor, it highlighted
Yes.
my entire paragraph.
Can you say that again?
It highlighted the whole entire paragraph. Why?
What highlighted? What highlighted the paragraph?
The code, the href code, instead of it highlighted my the home, the Earth and Mars, but it highlighted the dummy paragraph as well.
So when you say highlight, this is what I think you mean. Is that what you mean, highlighting?
Yes, it basically was going on with the tabs. The home, Earth, and Mars is going on in my paragraph as well.
I don't understand at all. Do you know how to screen share?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna turn off my screen share.
Okay.
And when your screen share options come up, please choose desktop.
Okay. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Say it again.
It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Really? Let me see what's up with that. All right, try it again. Sorry.
I know why.
You found it?
Yeah, I definitely did.
Okay.
Let me show you anyways.
All right. Yeah, it could maybe happening to someone else. It could be useful.
Yeah. Is it working at this point?
No.
Start screen share,
Choose.
desktop. Open system preferences. Zoom. Okay,
Is it making you go into your system preferences?
yes, it is.
Uh,
Okay, here we go. Boom.
excellent.
Okay, so you
I
see?
see. So that's not highlighting, that's underlining,
Okay.
right? So if you told me underlining, I would have told you, oh, you didn't close your link.
Okay.
And that's why the whole page thinks it's a big link. Guys, can you see that? I just want to point it out because it's this basically, this is why we have closing tags. She figured it out, right? So I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But if you forget to close a link, the whole page becomes a link.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm glad that you figured that out, as well as you could help us figure out more about screen sharing if we need to later too.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop
All right,
sharing now.
all right, thank you.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to screen share again. All right. I want everybody to see something. Let me just get this out of the way for a minute. I don't know if this is going to happen to me, but I'm going to try it. Let's say I forgot this after Mars. I'm saving it. I'm going to my browser and I refresh it. Look,
Yeah.
thinks the whole thing is a link. It might have even happened if, oops, hang on a second there. Sorry. If I did this, you know, like I forgot the slash. Let's see what happens. Nope. But either way, though, we want to play it as clean as possible. Make sure everything's closed. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to tell you what happens next. And I know some of you are looking ahead because, you remember the exercise from last week. Here's the idea. If this website's going to be this simple, right, where it's just 2 headlines on text for each planet, I'm going to steal this code for every planet when I'm ready and then just change headlines. So what I want to do right now is we already have our home page, right? I want to finish it, and then I want to use it to make the Earth page. So let's take a look at this. Nicole, are you trying to reach out? Your little box lit up, so I was wondering if, do you need a hand with something? Let me check.
I'm going to the restroom really quickly.
You go right ahead.
Okay.
I'll give you a hall pass. All right.
Yeah.
Do they still do that in public schools? Hall passes? No?
I think so.
I must sound really old suddenly then. I think so.
I think they do.
Yeah, in high school, that's it. You needed a pass.
I needed a pass in school, so I'm old too.
I needed a bulletproof vest is what I really needed. My high school was so bad, it started my art career. I'm not kidding you. First day of school, someone got shot. Day 1.
Where did you go to school?
Far Rockaway High School. It doesn't even exist anymore. It's in the Rockaways. But I went there. Day 1, someone got shot. The news showed up, and I was a young cartoonist. So I went right up to the news, and I'm like, hey, can I publish in your paper? I was like 14. And they looked at me, and they were like, do you do editorials? I was like, not usually. They're like, do one about the shooting. Bring it to the newspaper tomorrow. If we like it, we're going to start publishing you now. And that's exactly what happened. I ran home, and I did something about the shooting, and they published me right away, and that started my career.
Wow.
So, you always hear me talk about taking dark times and turning them around. That's a small story. Really nothing like where we're at right now, but it will turn around. It will. And then you get cocky when it turns around thinking I'm on top of the mountain. Uh-oh. Don't get cocky because there's only one way to go from there. When you're on bottom, there's only up. When you're on top, there's only down. Wisdom is learning how to take the ride. Anyway, let's move on a bit. Okay. So we have to finish something before we can make the other pages, and they're going to happen quickly. We want to finish these links. So the first link can only say this in the quotes. So please join me. You're back on index.html. This is my line 6. Yours may be a little different. That's okay. But the quote marks get the name of the page that's supposed to open when someone clicks the link. The home page is called index.html, and that's the only one that's not obvious, so I'm going to keep repeating it. The page you're on right now is the home page, but it still gets a link. Now, the Earth page we didn't make yet, so we're going to put the name in on faith, and this is what I'm going to call it when we make it, earth.html. And then Mars, you could see the pattern. I'm going to do the same thing, mars.html. Now, I'm asking you not to use capital letters on these for one reason. Your audience is going to read these, but the code is looking for pages here. I don't want you to have to guess. Did I write that with a capital or not? So to make sure you never have to guess, make yourself a deal. I will only save pages with lowercase letters. So index.html, earth.html, mars.html, each one's contained by quotes. If this looks good to you, save your page, go back to the browser and refresh it. Now what you should be seeing is the colors change a little bit. The first one's purple because that means this page has been visited. In other words, it's in the browser's history. Our planets, recently visited. The other two pages are not, so they're still blue. All right. I want you to double check that you're good so far. Here's my code. If your links are done, you're ready to make the next two pages. I want to just make Earth first so we could test it. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to borrow all this code, so select it all. Command A is a really useful shortcut on a Mac. Control A is wonderful on Windows. But there's also this selection menu. And here it is, select all. That's Command A or Control A. So you can do it here also. Then please copy it. So I use a lot of shortcuts. I'm going to do Command C once it's highlighted. So you could do Edit menu copy if you prefer. All right, now before you paste, we need a new page. So you borrowed the code, select all, you copied it to memory. Now let's go to the File menu and say New File. That really just means new page. So please be sure you're prepared though. Highlighted this and copied it, Command C to memory. Then File menu, New File. Now whenever you copy, you got to remember, it's in the computer's memory. You could paste it anywhere. You could paste it in an email. You could paste it in Photoshop. Let's paste it here. So this is an unsaved page that currently looks exactly the same as the home page. I want to discuss what changes are necessary. Well, I'm not going to change the title tag that says Our Planets, because the whole website is going to be about our planets. So they could every page can have the same title. I'm going to leave it alone. The links are not going to change because I'm only working on a 3-page website right now. So I'm glad I did that on the home page. I don't have to type it again. Yay. The headlines have to change though, because it's going to confuse everybody if the headlines are the same. It's like turning the pages of a newspaper and every page has the same headlines. No, this is supposed to be about Earth. So let's go to the H1 and write Planet Earth. I just want to see something quickly. Yeah, Planet Earth. I'm sorry, I'm just changing my mind whether I want caps or not. See, the thing about this is it's up to you. This is not code, this part. This is just English. So you can type it however you want. So this is going to be the Earth page. Someone clicked the link. They got to the Earth page. I want to say something about this special planet of ours in the subhead beneath it. So I'm going to write home. Oh no, that's going to confuse everybody, right? It's going to look like a home page. So I'm going to write our home. Let's see. Our home. I'm going to be corny for a minute. Our beautiful home. Picky teacher. My God. You could wing this a little bit. I don't want you to go too far off topic, though, because you'll find yourself confused later. You all understand why I'm not changing the paragraphs?
Yeah.
So obviously, if this was an assignment, I might actually give you the text for 3 pages. Go get the text for home, for index, go get the text for Earth, go get the text for Mars. But right now, we're just sticking with 2 Latin paragraphs. So we have to save this, but the one thing about saving it is, you better save it exactly like this. Because there's a link on the home page that's going to look for something by this in your folder, by this name. So we're going to save this exactly, earth.html. Let's save now. File, menu, save. Be very careful that if you didn't use capital letters in your quote marks, that you don't use them here. And I was telling you not to. I said it's best idea just to use lowercase letters, earth.html, going into the same folder. Here's the home page. And eventually all the HTML pages will be piled up in here. Earth.html. So it's got the exact name as the link, so the link should work. Let's see if it does. Could you go back to the browser Now you might remember the browser's still on your home page, but it's got a link. So this is the first time to try it out. Click your own Earth link. If it worked, congratulate yourself and click back to home. Make sure it goes back and forth. The Mars link is not going to work. File not found because we never made it. So let's go ahead and do that. Now listen, I like to check up just to see how people are doing in between.
So far, so good.
The links are still working?
Yes.
It's all working.
So listen, I want to mention, they won't always, right? So even if this is going smooth as smooth can be, keep your head. You know what I mean? Really. I appreciate the emojis and the physical thumbs up. If anyone needs a hand, you don't have to be shy about asking me. You know, but you do have to say something because I don't really know. Let me just check one quick thing. I'm going to interject quickly. Someone asked, do we get homework in this class? Yes, very little. First homework is given today, by the way. So I'm saving the last few minutes of class to go over it. But it's going to strike most of you as insultingly easy. I apologize. We're doing very well, as it turns out. But it's 15% of your grade. The harder homeworks will be worth more of your grade. But 15% is a lot. You know, can't get an A without today's homework. So we'll get to it. All right, right now. So if your two links are working, that's great. That basically means the code you keep borrowing is sound. It's solid. Let's go make the Mars page. So if you've copied something in the last couple minutes, then you need to select everything and copy it again. You want to make sure that you got the whole page. So I'm going to select all one more time. Command A. I'm going to use Command C to copy it to memory. It was probably in memory still, but just in case. Then ask for a brand new page. File menu, new file. Now be really careful that you're working on the new page. This is the third one, and let's paste. So you see this system. Because the home page was so complete, right? Because it was so complete, we're able to make the rest of the website rather quickly, right? So this is going to be the Mars page. I'm going in the order of the links to remind me. The only thing we've been changing is the headlines. So I'm just going to write under H1, I'm going to write Mars, simply. I'm going to go to the H2 and say something Martian. I'm going to write the red planet. You know, folks, I want to say something brief to you that's a little off topic for a moment. You know, with the world looking like it's falling apart, right? It is indeed suffering. It is not falling apart, though, and it won't. Not anytime soon. But we would have been very excited about something that just happened in space. I'm really all about protecting this planet, but I could see the way it's going. We're going to need to have to spread out a little bit, at least to what we have nearby, like Mars. But the governments can't handle it because they always waste money and they do everything wrong. And if you don't like Elon Musk, I understand, but he's a brilliant scientist. So he's figured out a way to get us into space cheaper. Yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? Was the first? When was it?
Saturday.
Saturday? Because they tried it a few days earlier and then it didn't work, so they delayed it. I don't think
they delayed it because of weather.
Because of the weather.
Saturday,
but it's huge, isn't it? This is the first time a commercial company got humans into outer space. The government paid them, naturally, but that changes everything. That just changes everything. I can't even begin to count the number of things that are going to happen now in your lifetime because of what just happened. You know, I just utterly fascinated. And with the world being as crazy as it is lately, where all the things you imagine, all these weird things come true, I'm waiting for aliens to come knocking on the door now. I'd be like, they'll knock, they'll peek at us and they'll say, oh, sorry.
They've already been here.
Yeah, I'm passing by. Well, I know why they left. I'll tell you that. Anyway, let's go. We can get back to the code. All right, so here's the Mars page, but I didn't save it yet. And you can see the links are going to be looking for this, so I want to make sure that I name very carefully right now. Let's save it. So again, mars.html. And we're saving it to the same folder, otherwise it will not work. And lowercase letters. All right. So you notice I didn't drag any of them out of the folder except for the home page. And the reason I didn't, I could just drag and drop them like we did with the home page. But I don't want to do that because I also want to make sure the links work. So I'd rather have one browser window for the whole thing. So I'm going to click Mars and see if that worked. And it looks like I'm in good shape. Now I want to say something to you before we go on. We're going to do some styling next. You actually have 9 links. So it's possible that you keep clicking, say, Earth, and it works sometimes, but not always. Hey, it works. Oh, no, it doesn't work. It works. It doesn't work. What would cause that? Well, you have 3 links to Earth. So take a look at my code so I can make my point extra clear. My home page has an Earth link, but so does the Earth page itself. And so does the Mars page. What if one of them was broken? Every time I was on Mars, I couldn't click the Earth link in that case because there's 9 links. So the one thing I just want to say to you, what I'm trying to point out is, just because it looks like there's 3, and that's true for your audience, you have to know that there's 3 of these on each page. That means there's 9 opportunities to break it. Not to sound negative, but to sound vigilant. You know, keep your eye on them. There's going to be a lot of links. 10-page website is going to have 100 links. So you're really going to have to look out very closely. All right. Essentia, is that one of those airplane pillows?
No, it's a neck pillow. It's like, it's Haku from Spirited Away.
Oh.
It's for my neck because my neck has been hurting a lot for like a few days.
That's a clever solution.
So I got one.
I was like, either she's like a heavy flyer, you know, or she's got some kind of mythic creature as a pet. I couldn't figure out which it was.
I wish.
Now I know. All right. Are you guys ready to do some styling? So listen, I want to say something to you. I like this part of the class, but I like every part of this class, really. So we're going to be leaving this pretty soon. One of the goals that I had was basic formatting. I definitely wanted everyone to know how to link. I want everyone to be off the ground with styling and photos so that I could show you in a few days where to look for those of you who want even more. But I'm showing you guys the most advanced form of styling first. I want you to hear out my logic. It doesn't mean the hardest. You know, I don't know why everybody always hears most advanced meaning hardest. Sometimes you just get simpler the better you are. You know, you watch a master artist, these monks in China, they draw a fish, they're like, whoosh. And then you look at it, you're like, how the hell did he do that, you know? And it was the simplest solution, but he was incredibly advanced, you know, so he could do that. So I want to say what we're doing. The subject is CSS, and we tasted it on Thursday. I want to take it further today. CSS, that stands for cascading, like a waterfall cascades, style sheets. Now, I'll come back to why they say cascading. That's not the important part. Style is, right? Style. Colors, fonts, picture frames, how much room, everything artistic that you could think of, style. Sheets. Now, really, people use CSS without the sheets, and that's really boring. Basically, what they do is this. They say, oh, I want this one word to be a different color. So they're like, okay, that's on the Earth page. And then they go there and they figure out how to write code for that one thing. The problem is that's going to take years for a tiny website. What you want to do is think large. You read a newspaper, all the headlines look the same. All the subheads look the same. There are exceptions, but you deal with that later. You set your rules. This is how you make style rules that rule the whole website. All right, let's go over this and take it further. Sorry. Okay, what I'd like for you to do is this. Could everyone join me in 2 steps? In Sublime, get to your index tab. Leave the other 2 out, but make sure you're on index. Be very sure you're on index. Go to the browser and make sure you're looking at home. So click your own home link. So in other words, you've got, it's looking at your code for our index. That's your home page. And you are also in that code in Sublime index. So they match. I want you to go into the head section and make a little bit of room before the head closes. So if you look at mine, my head section was 3 lines. Head, then it had a little title in there, and then closing head. I just added a little bit of space. That's a tab I just did just to keep it neat. You'll see why I tab later. but you don't have to. It could be here. But I would like you to type this exactly. This is review. This is also all repeated on the handout.
You forgot the L, Professor.
Oh, thank you. I knew it looked weird. Thank you. So look, I made a mistake. Thanks for helping out. And really, anytime you see me make a mistake, please help. I appreciate it. I've made lots of mistakes on these. I've written style sheet with 3 E's when I wasn't looking. You know, I've left out quote marks. So I want to go over this because last week we tried it, but we didn't go over it. This homepage here is being told to link to its styles, where it will be told what to look like. Now, we haven't yet finished it, but if it works on the home page, we're going to copy this line. Now, I'm on line 4. I would take this line once I know that it works, and I'm going to put it on the Earth page, and I'm going to put it on the Mars page. And as the website grows, I'm going to put it on every page. Right now, we only want it on home until we know that it works. So let me point out, the tag is link. And I wish it wasn't called that because it makes you think of the links you click. But that's, unfortunately, that is what it's called, link. href, just like links, is going to be very important. Let's leave this empty for a minute. I want to talk about these two. Rel equals style sheet. Now, you'll hear me say this sometimes, left equals right, and the right side is in quotes. Now, that sounds funny, but look at it. This left equals right, the right's in quotes. Here's a left object, equals right side, and the right's in quotes. You see the pattern keeps repeating. Left equals right, and the right's in quotes. Also, they're separated by spaces. So what does that mean? It means link is the tag, and these are 3 attributes that make the tag work. href, rel, and type. Now I gotta tell you something. This is terribly boring. So I'm not gonna go over this in the future because there's nothing creative about this particular step. You just have to type it, and you have to type it exactly right. The only part you ever change is this one. So I'm going to do that now. I can name my style sheet anything I want. I'm going to call this one planets.css. Now, I could call it anything as long as it ends .css. The web pages end .html, but the one style sheet ends .css. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing an emergency. No, sorry. So stare this down, guys. Make sure the right side bracket is there. Make sure each of these pairs gets quotes. Left equals right, the right sides are in quotes. Right? Anything that looks suspicious, stare it down. Okay, save this page. Now, we're not going to add that line to the other pages until we make a style sheet and test it. Let's go to the next step. The home page knows there's going to be a style sheet called planets.css. Let's make it. All right. So in Sublime, ask for a brand new page. I'm going to slide mine over. I just got in that habit of keeping my styles on the right, sorry. I just slid it over. All right, I want to do the body tag. I'm going to ask you just to join me. We did this one before. I want to get to some new stuff, but I do want you to see this. I'd like you to copy those 3 lines as neatly as you possibly can. The style sheets are pretty easy to get started, really. Now I'm going to save mine. Let me just move this over. And I had already said I was going to call it Planet. Bless you.
Thank you.
CSS. I did say planets plural, didn't I? Pretty sure I did.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of mistake I would make typically. I forget if it, it would be silly to call it planet, right? All right, so planets.css. It's going to the right folder. So I'm going to click save. Now, you should see your colors change, right? You saved it with an extension, .css, that Sublime recognizes. And it gave you the colors that you're currently set to for CSS. Let's get back to the browser. Now remember, I asked you to go to your home page. And if you did, just click refresh. If you didn't, if you're not seeing it, maybe you're on Earth or Mars. But if you're on the home page, you should be seeing this extra white space. Now I need to know if it works, because if it works, I'm going to ask everybody to copy the correct line to Mars and to Earth and to Mars, right? Then you'll see all the pages are going to share the style. Once you know everything's turned on stylistically, it's all about the art form, right? For a little while at least. So I'm going to do that also. My home page is set up. The others are not. So I'm going back here. Let's go to the code. So your home page has got the magic line, and we know as a fact that it's working. So let's highlight that line. By the way, did you notice this doesn't have a closing tag? I think it's the first thing I've shown you that doesn't even have a closing tag. And the reason it doesn't is it doesn't wrap around anything. It doesn't wrap around a word or a whole paragraph or a headline. So since it doesn't wrap around anything, it doesn't have a closing tag. Anyway, highlight that line. Make sure you get the whole thing, Command C. I'm going in order, so I'm going to the Earth page next. And it has to go in the head section, anywhere between head and closing head. I'm in the habit of putting it right after title. Save as you go. I got a gray dot up there, so it won't show till I save it. So that's the Earth page. Then I'm going to go to the Mars page. I'm going to do the exact same routine. I'm putting it in the head section. So I have to make a little room. And then I save. I want to see all little X's up there, meaning they're all saved. Once they're all saved, I'm going to go to the browser and click the other links to see if they're sharing the margin. And now they all look the same. So at this point, for a little while, it's only about the style sheet. I want to just say real quickly, if you do test yours and one page doesn't have a margin, right? You know, one page is left out, then go look at the code for that page. The mistake's got to be in the head section. You know, if suddenly Mars didn't have the margin, I'd go to the Mars page and check this line out. I might delete it and go get a new copy or something, clean it up. Okay, are we still good?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions before we start adding styles?
Yeah, I think something for mine's broke.
Is the margin showing up on any page?
No, it didn't show up, and then the whole thing just, it says it can't be found.
Really? Could you, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing. All right. Have you ever screen shared before?
No.
All right. So listen, this may take a little bit of effort. Let's try it. I'm stopping sharing. You're going to the bottom where the green button is, and you're clicking share screen. Choose desktop. And I want to ask you, is it asking you to go to your preferences? No. No, you got it. You're good. You're good. I see it already. Excellent. So what I want to see, could you show me your folder for a minute?
Yeah. And this one.
I can't see the folder, unfortunately. You did choose desktop. Are the 3 documents in that folder? I can't see.
Yeah, they are. Except for the planets one. There's something wrong with that one.
There is no planets page. There's only index.html, earth.html. So listen, I can't see your folder. Take me back to Sublime. Can I mention something else to you?
Yeah.
All 3 of these pages have unsaved changes. Do you
I
see how
tried to save them, but it does.
they save?
Yeah.
All right, I'll fix this for you. All right, click OK. So listen to me for a minute. If you move things around from the folders while working, they don't know where to save. Now that's one possible problem. Another problem is a glitch that I can't figure out what causes it, but I do know how to fix it. So I'm going to assume it's the second one. Could you click the index page first so we can go in order? I want you to do File Menu, Save As. Now everybody, I want you to notice what I'm doing. Her save was not working. It was refusing to cooperate. So save as usually means give me a new file. You're doing exactly the right thing. Now just click save here at the
Okay.
bottom. Right? Let's see what it says when you click save.
I don't think I can.
You're clicking save and it won't? All right.
Yeah. Do I just do? Yeah, I can't save as.
Click cancel. I want to see one more thing. Click cancel. I'm going to do this with you quickly. Just join me. All right. You're on the index page. Let's do this one more time. File menu, save as. All right. Listen, I don't know why it's behaving so strangely, right? But could you go down to file name? No, the bottom. Toward the bottom. Click in there. Right. Type index.html. Click save. Now look, it says you want to replace it. Yes, you do.
Okay.
I don't know how the link to the folder broke, but we're fixing it. Click yes.
Okay.
Quickly go to Earth. File menu, save as. Type earth.html. Perfect. Click save. It's going to ask you want to replace. Yes, exactly. Go to Mars. So this is going to happen to other people in the room. There's several possible causes. So she's just resaving everything to the right folder. Just kind of snap them out of it. Click save. Now let's go back to click cancel if it asks you to purchase anything. Go to your browser. So, you know, I'm not sure that you clicked desktop, did you? Because it looks like it's only letting you show me Sublime. So could you go to your browser on your own and tell me if it works?
It doesn't.
All right, I want you to go to your folder and drag index into your browser.
Okay.
So you want to keep your folder out where you could see it
Yeah, I have.
and manually drag and drop it into your browser.
Okay, I think I got it back. It works.
Okay, so can you stop screen sharing
Yes.
for a moment? Guys, I want to say something to everybody. I have to find some links of like 5-minute videos about how to screen share properly. The biggest problem with remote teaching for me is that I often work on your computers in the real world. You know, I could say, oh, look at this, you know, and you get it like that instead of, you know, everything taking 5 times as long. And part of it is like, Essentia may have done that exactly right, but what it wound up looking like when you chose screen share, it looked like you didn't click desktop, so you couldn't show me things on your desktop. You know, if you click Sublime, you can only show me Sublime. But I need you to show me browsers, Sublime, the folder. So you really have to, I click desktop. That's why I could show you anything when I screen share. Is everybody okay at this stage? So I want to be very clear. You tested your home page that it could read your styles. When it passed the test, you copied the line into the other 2 pages. You keep saving carefully with the exact same names, the same folders, and you won't have a mess. But if something goes wrong, you'll have to resave those pages with save as, like Essentia just did. Not a big deal, fixes it. Let's do more style. I want to do some review and mix new stuff. So let me just put this aside for a minute. Give me a second here. Oops, sorry. My something's suddenly acting a little bit different on my screen. Just give me a minute. There we go. Essentia, never mind. I'm going to screen share. There we go. Sorry, I just got a little confused. Okay, let's go to the style sheet. Last week, we learned how to give your pages a color. I'd like you to try this with me, and then I want to upgrade. So it's one style sheet to rule them all. And the beauty of this is if you had a 100-page website, the whole website updates every time you make one of these changes. You know, once they all have that one link line, you just keep coming here to change things. Save this when you're ready. Open any of your pages in the browser and refresh it. You can check out the other pages if you want. Now, I want to introduce you to something. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. There's too much going on. Something I have to address. Sorry. You know, I loved it when I watched a presidential candidate the other day take a phone call from his daughter in the middle of an interview. I was like, yeah, family. Did you change it? Did your page turn color?
Yes.
So
Yes.
guys, listen, let's talk color for a couple of minutes. There was about 20 colors that you could use by name in the past. So it was very limited and made things look often childish even because it was all mostly very bright colors. Now I believe there's about 200 colors, but you'd have to find the list on the internet. And they have odd names, silver, which is really just a kind of gray, salmon. But the real colors, right, the real colors are hex code. I want to show you what hex code means and how to use it. First, I want to try a boring one, and then you're going to choose one of your own that's better, right? So I'd like you to try this with me. I just want to see. Is anyone trying to get my attention? I know some of you don't have, your mics are not working. Oh, hey, great. Somebody sent me a link about screen sharing. I'm going to check that out later. Thank you. Thank you, Rand. Where are you? Huh. All right, in any case. Oh, there you are, Rand. All right, thank you. Let's try this. I want you to go into that little bit of code you wrote and try this for a minute. Take the orange out and type # CCC CCC. Now this is 6 letters, and hex code always has 6. We call them characters because they're letters or numbers. This is simply gray, but I want you to see it. Save it, come to your screen and refresh it. All right, simple gray. Let's show you how to get your own hex code. I want to introduce you to my #1 favorite website for web design. And I'm talking amazing. It's the best for the beginner, and it's best for the super experienced. It's just one-stop shopping, free web design support. And it also happens to have a great place to pick your colors. So everybody please join me. I want you to open up a tab in your browser, a new one, and I'd like you to search this, W3S, that's for W3 schools, W3S, and then I'd like you to write color picker. So you wrote W3S color picker. Now, that was a Google search, so it's giving me lots of places that have color pickers. But you'll notice W3 schools comes to the top, and it says color picker right on it. Please click that link. Now, I'd like you to pay close attention. This is kind of fun and useful. I want to point out that there are other color pickers on the internet. I just want you to start with this one. If your browser is small, yours looks like this, which is fine. If your browser is wide, I'm going to keep mine wide right now. It looks like this. So I want to tell you what your steps are. You're picturing a background color. Could you start here, click on a couple of these, and I want you to notice what happens in this box, at least on mine. So again, you might want to widen your browser so you could see them next to each other. When I click any color here, it shows me here what that color looks like behind black text and white text. And the reason it does that is that's the two most common colors for text. So if it looks good on both, it's flexible. If I go to a dark color though, the black text looks terrible. And if I'm going to use black text, I really cannot use this background color. Right? I can if I just agree that I'm going to stay with white text, but it looks bad for black. So right now I'm going to ask you to find a color that looks good for both. All right, when you find a color you like, I want to draw your attention to this area. Now again, if your browser is narrow, you'll scroll down to find these features. This one called lighter, darker. I like this one because this little hexagon, the 6-sided item, where we get our hex code from, right? It doesn't have a lot of tints and shades. In other words, lights and darks. It's limited once you find a color to a small range. But if you look at lighter, darker, you could change your mind. Do you want it lighter? Well, see what that looks like. Do you want it darker? You can see what that looks like. So if you do want to change it, here's a good opportunity. Now, I do want to mention something. There are other features here we may look at later, but they're far less important. So I'm going to stick with these for right now. Once you've found the color that you like, highlight the hex code. Now I want to point that out. The hex code's here, and you'll find it that it shows up throughout the entire website. So it doesn't matter where you are on this page. Wherever you are, it probably has it. Highlight it and Command C. I want to mention, if you got a great memory, you could just commit it to memory. Mine's FF99FF. All right, but I want you to use yours. Could you go back to your code? Let's leave this out. I want you to find your way back to Sublime and paste it. So whenever you're ready, it's got 1 pound sign and 6 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't forget that semicolon at the end though. Every line's gonna have it. When you're ready, save it. Go refresh the browser. So leave your color picker out, go to the other tab and refresh it. Nice. I want to do a couple things with color. So it's just this little bit. And I want to ask everybody, did that work?
Yeah.
Work easily?
Yes.
So I want to mention something. You want to keep a color picker out when you're web designing. It could be W3 Schools. It could be many others that are free on the internet. It could also be having Photoshop open. You just have to know where its color picker is, because it also has hex code, as well as Adobe Illustrator. Just about every program, actually. There's hex code there, so you could use them there also. We're going to use W3 Schools. I want to do some more stuff with color, though. My headline looks like it deserves a color.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what your background color is right now, right? And we want to make a decision about the headline. Could you go to the CSS first and join me by doing this? I'm talking about the big headline. So whenever you're taking a tag, especially a formatting tag, you could drop it right on your style sheet and change it. So we're going to start by changing the color of our H1s. And there's one on every page, so it's going to have a big result. So let's go ahead first and give it a text color. Now this is different. So this is how you do the hex code for, this means the font. I'm sorry, I'm falling over my words for a minute. So in this case, our solar system, this font, these letters are going to change color. But I didn't pick a color yet. You know, I could just type something in that's obvious, and that works, but I'd rather use a hex code. So could you go to your color picker and figure out what you want to do? Do you want the same color that's just much darker or much lighter? You know, you're going to have to wing it a little bit and find out. So right now, I'm going to see what happens with this very pale version of that color. So I'm highlighting my hex, and I simply type it in. Be sure you have that pound sign. Be sure you have the semicolon at the end. Whenever you're ready, you save it, you come back, and you refresh it. So I like mine, but it's too subtle. I'm going to give it a background. So I want to just say something just in general. For a little bit, we're juggling technology and art now, right? So like I'll go to my style sheet and start to imagine, okay, what do I see here? Let me try that, right? So now I'm imagining what my headline might look like with a box around it of a different color. If you'd like to try that with me, all right, you need to go find yourself that color. So I'm going to go back to my color picker. I could change colors completely. Or I could start here and just use different tones. Here's what happens if I use a different tone, very dark one. So I'm copying one, Command C, and I'm just going to pop it in and get a fast look. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. I wasn't thinking. Let me put that back. Sorry, guys, your teacher must be either under-caffeinated or over-caffeinated. Let me take a breath. All right, this is the text color, right? This pale color I chose. I want a background, which I almost forgot. So let's write the background color again. So we told the whole body to be this color, but right now I'm just telling the headline to have its own background color. And I lost the color I chose, so I'm going to get it again. And now I'm going to try that one. So as long as you see the pattern, this one means text, this one means behind the text. Save it when you're ready and refresh it. It's looking better. We're almost at the point where we were last week, and I do want to squeeze in a couple new things if I can. If not, it was a worthwhile review, so I'm all right with it. I want to change the width of this box. Now, headlines always take up the entire width from margin to margin, which can look great. But if you don't like it, you don't have to keep it. So I'd like you to join me in changing it just to see what it's like or review what it's like. I'm going to type width. Now, for a little while, you're going to have to guess because we haven't really learned too much about pixels and how many is good. So right now, I'm going to try a width of 600 pixels, and you might want to try the same. And again, simply save, go to your browser, and refresh it. And all the pages are going to be the same, right? Because they're all looking at the style sheet. I want to look at my own handout because I want to make sure I haven't forget anything critical since there's only officially 20 minutes and change left. So give me a minute. All right. There's the line that attached the style sheets to each page. Here's the link you just explored with me, the color picker on W3 Schools. We tried background color. I do want to take margins a little further. Let me do that. That's something that we need to talk about. All right. I want to show you what I mean. We've got a very large margin right now, and it's exactly the same. And I want to teach you something that you're going to probably need a lot if you choose to continue this. Could you take a look on your style sheet in your body tag? Let's ignore the headline a little bit. Go back up to the body. It said margin 120. Now what that actually means is 120 pixels on top, on the right, on the bottom. If there was enough text, it would make sure that none of it touched the bottom. That was 120 pixels away. And most importantly, the left, this margin here, 120 pixels. But if you wanted to do it differently, I'd like you to try this. So we're changing the margin. And I'm going to explain it in a minute. I'm going to explain this. I want to make sure it works. So give me 1 second to test it. I'm going to save it. I'll bring that code right back, promise. Very different margins, completely different. Here's the code, and then I'm going to explain it. In fact, while you're typing it, I want to prepare something for you. If you've already tested yours, what I just wrote is a CSS comment. So I could write notes to you with this same technique. /*, I could write any kind of message, */. So people write comments to their team. They write explanations of new things they're learning. So what I wrote was this: top, right, bottom, left. This is for people who feel rather picky about their margins. I chose to give it a small top margin because I really didn't need that much room on top, 50 pixels. I said 75 pixels on the right, so I got some breathing room over there. It'll never touch the wall. I said 50 on the bottom, but I got to be honest, I don't care about this one. I'll only care if there's like a lot of text, because I got obviously a lot of room on bottom. This is just an emergency. This is the one I care about the most. Remember, it's top, right, bottom, left. The left margin you always see. I want to show you how bad that looks now that you could getting more sensitive to margins without it. That's just wrong. the left side margin is the most important. So I'm not going to tell you how big they should be, but this is how you do it. I want to repeat something. If you don't feel like you need this much detail, you put in one number like we did before. It looked pretty good. But if you really want to break it down, this is the detailed way to control margins. There you go. Any questions about margins?
I actually have a question about the comments.
Yes.
Can that be used in the regular HTML section?
No, but what I could, if you like, I'm going to show you how to do an HTML comment as well. So for anyone who's interested in taking notes in your code, Jonathan's question is a really good one. You know, so every time I learn something new, I write the world's longest comments to myself. So I mean, this could go on for many lines, right? And as long as it starts this way, I could write a whole speech to myself to explain my own code, but it has to end like this. But that's just for CSS. Jonathan, I want to tell you something. That's stolen from JavaScript. So any language that was born from JavaScript shares this comment. So there's something called jQuery where you'll see it, and ActionScript for animators where you'll see it. So JavaScript is one of those children, and this is how it comments. But if I wanted to write a comment in my HTML, this is how that looks. It's weird looking. Now I got to warn you about this one because I had a bunch of really talented students make a mistake on this. Can you take a look at this, Jonathan? Mm-hmm. This is wrong. Sorry. This is also wrong, right? So it has to start exactly like that. Bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash, 2 dashes. You write whatever you want to say, and look how the right side ends. Just dash, dash, right bracket. It's a little hard to remember, so if you're interested in it, just write a comment on something now, you know, like a lot of you are doing. And you could always do W3S comments, and W3 Schools will tell you how to do it, right? So this is just for HTML. Great question. And the other method, which we'll come right back to, is to take notes on your CSS. So it's odd, you know, you're learning 2 languages is the weird thing that's going on here. I mean, HTML is the real language that marks up the page, says I'm a headline, I'm a paragraph, I'm a link, but it's ugly. And then the style sheet, CSS, was made just for it. It's weird, the support language. You typically just call it a technology because it doesn't qualify as a whole language. But it is, really. All right, I want to take a look at the style sheet because I want to make some time to talk to you about the homework, the first homework. So I'm saving some time for that. Let's take a look, though, back here. So you could put these comments anywhere. There's no rules as long as you write it right on your style sheet, this one, and it ends this way. We learned about margins and background colors. We learned about more than one use of the background color. Just for the fun of it, I want to throw in one more thing before I talk up the homework. I want to mention to you how you change fonts. Now, bear with me. This is a large subject, and I'm only going to be able to take it a certain distance because of the nature of this course. So I just want to get us started, right? Let's try one. Now, here's the way it works. If I put a font in the body tag, the whole website can use that font. So it's the fastest way to make a very large effect, right? Tell the whole website use a different font. But later on, if I get crafty and I'm like, yeah, but I want my headlines to have a special font, I'll put another one in the H1. The body tag says, do everything this way, unless you're told otherwise. So I could still later on get more nuance. Right now, let's set a default font by going into the body tag. Join me for a moment. Oh, this takes a little bit of effort, but the first step does it. Font, family. And I'm going to ask you to try this family, and then I'll explain what a family is. Before we go further, I want you to stare this down, make sure you got the commas in the right places. It might let you get away with out the spaces, but it surely won't without the commas. Arial, Helvetica, sans serif. Don't forget the semicolon on the end. Save this. Now, before you refresh the browser, give it a hard look. Look at that font. It's a very old school kind of font. It's called a serif font, which you could talk more about when we have time for it. But when you refresh it, it looks more modern, right? Completely different look. This kind of font is called sans serif. And we'll learn more about serifs, as I said, when I have a little bit of time. But sans serif fonts are much less decorated than serif fonts. So I'll give you a quick look at something. And then I'm going to need to switch topics for a little bit. Sans serif fonts have these little decorative elements. There's many different kinds, but you've been seeing these your whole life, you know. You could see this is what a font looks like without it. This started around 1950 in the 20th century, and most of us were kind of raised on seeing both. You just made a choice to go without serifs, a slightly more modern look. So I want to say something about what you just did and then talk up the homework. Why did I have to write 3 items in font family? Now that's just a little weird, right? And this is how it works. So I'd like for everybody to take a deep breath and just hear me out on this one. The fonts you see at home are loaded on your computer. And the fonts I see at home are loaded on my computer. And if you don't load fonts, it means the fonts your computer came with. So if you bought a font this week, and a computer this week, it might show up with, say, 50 fonts. And those are the only 50 fonts you could see or use, right? Now, what web designers are concerned with is, what fonts do we all have? Now, we all have Arial. And most of you kind of knew what it looked like even before we used it. And most of us, we all have Times. But we don't all have Helvetica. All Macs have Helvetica, but not all Windows. Now, this is what this means. If someone goes to your website and they don't have Arial, it goes to the second one in the family and looks for that. If it doesn't have the second one in the family, it goes to this. And this means, get me anything similar. You know, get me anything that looks like one of these, not this. So it says, all right, that means your code is actually very intelligent. It's giving a family of choices. I want to stop here with one last thought. The web-safe fonts are kind of ugly and boring. So you're not going to like them. And pretty quickly, those of you who like doing this, and I need more fonts, which isn't part of this class. So what I'm going to do when we close up this section of the class, I'm going to show people where you could learn about web-based fonts. These are web-safe fonts. Everyone learns them first. Web-safe fonts, you learn how to use font family. But the next, you learn how to use web-based fonts, which basically means there are libraries online that you could link to. And while the link works, you could use their fonts. And the most famous one is Google Fonts, which I use all the time. And if there's any way I could do a demo, I'll squeeze it in, even though it's not exactly part of the class, you know. So I want to stop here for a minute, and I want to point out some things about class and about the homework, right? So let me get a look at the, where is that? My homework. So before we go further, I want to point out that everything we did today is somewhere on the handout except for font family. I went a little further. I'll often squeeze in one more move, right? But everything else is on today's handout, so you should really read over the handout. Naturally, it'll also be on the video. There's also sample code that covers a lot about what we did, you know? So you'll notice this is a 2-page website that's linking back and forth. It's got one style sheet that they're sharing, simply called style.css. So you can't just copy and paste this, because if you copy the line numbers, you'll break it. But you can borrow parts if you want. Surely you could look at it when you're stumped. CSS here is here. So here is the CSS that those 2 pages would be looking at, including the comments that we just tried. I highlighted the hex code because that's new, and I want the people to pay attention. Hex code's the best way to choose color for a website. All right, I want to show you guys something. This is beneath you. So if you want to make your homework look better, please do, right? I want to show you something. This is the first project, right? And I'll show you what the requirements are, but I just happen to have one out. So it's a 2-page project with no required CSS. Now, if you want to make it better, you attach your own style sheet and make it better, right? That's optional. But here, it's a home page that has 2 headlines: World's Best Musicians, What Makes a Great Musician, and a paragraph. Then you choose your own musician. This artist chose Tracy Chapman, this designer. So let's go to Tracy Chapman. Now, I didn't teach you how to do photos, so this student had to have the photo, so he moved forward a little bit, you know. We'll be doing this soon. Don't feel like you have to use the photo. I'd rather you use CSS if you wanted to do more. But he's got the links on both pages. It's also 2 headlines, right? Also has a paragraph. So this is what I'm looking for. I want to show you what the details are. So here's the details. Every class, I've got a homework box at the end. Now, right now, I'm only going to give 4 homeworks. This is by far the smallest. The other 3 are large, right? They're worth substantially more than this one, but this one's worth 15% of your grade. So let's be clear. You want to make a folder for yourself by this exact name. So when you're ready to do the homework, make a folder and give it this name. I know what class you're in, and I know what week the assignment is with your first and last name. So you know how we've been doing that? We've been making folders each class, same thing. Then you're going to start your first page, which is naturally going to be your index. Now, hey, Jessica, you okay? You look so worried, but I think in my heart you're doing well.
Yeah, no, I'm doing fine. I'm just looking. I'm just watching.
Oh, okay. I know some people look that way even when they're having fun, so I don't mean to impose.
And I was actually reading the whole thing, and so I squint sometimes. So.
All right, no, that's okay. I just want to make sure I'm not flipping anybody out. I'm trying not to. All right, so let's come back. So then it says, give me, here's the steps. You're putting one page, a home page. Give me a headline, World's Best Musicians. Give me a small headline, H2. What makes a musician great? And give me a paragraph. I'd rather you not give me Lorem Ipsum, but I'll accept Lorem Ipsum, right? And then you have to include 2 links. Now this is where you got to think. The first one's always home, right? It's always going to index.html. So we've already done this for the 3rd time together. Same thing. So I'm talking about this one here. Include 2 links. One for home, and then one for your musician. So if your musician's Miles Davis, this is what it looks like. Right? It's going to be a page, milesdavis.html. If it's Jack White, jackwhite.html. Michael Jackson, whatever it's going to be, Ray Charles.html. No spaces, no capitals. Keep it clean. Everybody with me so far? At this stage, you're going to have a link, a page that looks like that. Right? You can all do that. Right? Just that you're picking the second link, what it's going to say. The next page is just a little harder, just a little bit. Your second page, right? You're going to make the page you already asked for. In my example, Miles Davis. It's going to have a headline with his name. Let's take a look and see what he did. Tracy Chapman. He even added a little bit, living legend. I would accept just the person's name, but you could add more if you like. So if you take my instructions step by step, this is going to be a breeze. All right, so use the H1 for the musician's name, Tracy Chapman or whatever. Follow it with some text. I'm not asking for photos. Not asking for photos. Now, I want the CSS to style both pages. So you might have to look over what we did today. Actually, I'd said earlier that was optional. I take it back. It's not. Style them. Look at what you did today for ideas. Look at the handout. If you're really brave, you could go online, see if there's more you want to try. W3 schools. And that's it. So I got to say something about this guy's project. This is a low-grade project. There's no style sheet. It's ugly. I gave him a good grade because he taught himself to do the photos, so he pumped it up, you know, so he wound up getting a good grade anyway. But really, I would have liked to see some color, you know, that type of thing. Does anybody have any questions about the homework?
No.
Now, if it makes anyone nervous, you're tired. You just ended a 2-hour class. You come back, Go to the handout, one instruction at a time. He said to do this, do it. Next, next. If everything works and you want to improvise, just for fun, do what you like. If you're in the mood, add a page, add something. You can take it further. Just don't take it less far. Guys, I want to close up by repeating something about this class. I'm given 4 projects, so it's an easy class, but the projects aren't easy. This one is the easiest. So if it strikes you as easy, good. If it strikes you as hard, use it as a way to improve. Seize the moment. Now, if you don't have a computer, because I think 1 or 2 people are having that issue, I am extending this deadline as long as we need. But my only worry is not about that, is I don't want people getting overwhelmed. Because I teach a lot, you know, as you can see. So it's all about the videos at this stage. At this stage, I think today's video covered just about everything, right? That we've covered. It's just I went quicker. Right. Do this homework, it's 15% of your grade. Any questions for me? No? So folks, off the top of my head, I don't know, what are we doing tomorrow? Oh yes, tomorrow we're bringing photos in. So we're doing more of this with photos. That's truly the missing link. I mean, if you look at what I've got here, other than my colors being bizarre for a planetary website, wouldn't it be great if I had a picture of the solar system here? You know, with the text wrapping around it, and on the Earth page, we had a picture of our beautiful planet somewhere. You know, naturally, same on Mars. So that's clearly what's missing, and that is definitely what's coming next. If there are no questions, then we're going to wrap it up for today. That was 2 hours well spent. Well spent. Does anyone need office hours from me today? Let me know, and I'll stick around for you. Okay, Kenya, let's hang out, you and I. So I'm going to end the class right now. Kenya, can I ask you frankly, is it private? Should we arrange something private, or do you not care? Your mic's off though.
I don't care.
You don't care? Cool. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. If you also have questions for me, office hour style questions, stick around. And I'm going to take care of Kenya first.
I'm sorry, when is the homework due?
It's due Monday, a week from today. I always give I try to give a week, typically speaking. So you'll get a warm-up, a little more warm-up tomorrow even. I wanted to ask Sala. Sala, what did you mean by can we add the article in P? You sent me a chat that says, can we add the article in P? I don't know what that question means really. Are you there, Sala? If you do have a mic, turn it on. Otherwise, I'm looking at the text. It's and then I'm going to come right back to you, Kenya.
Okay.
We did lorem. Can you put real text in the paragraphs? Yes, absolutely. Please. Please do. You know, I'm using lorem ipsum only because it's convenient. I don't really like using lorem ipsum. Everybody on the planet almost is using lorem ipsum when they don't have text. Listen, I'm going to give you guys a heads up about the midterm. I don't have the date for you right now, but it's going to be a 4-page website about graffiti. And the main difference is I'm giving you the text for all 4 pages in a Microsoft Word file and in a PDF for people who don't have Microsoft Word. So you're not going to use lorem ipsum. You're going to go get the text to the home page and use it. You know, for each page, and I'm going to give you photos too. It's like a really good client. So we're going to act like a web design agency by the time we get there. So we're going to be using real words, real photos. And frankly, those of you who want something to show off, that'll be your best opportunity to actually do it. Because it's going to have real content and fairly interesting content at that. You know, it's not a boring subject. So there we have, let me see, we'll be sending you an email. Okay. I am checking my chat, so I understand. Listen, folks, again, just about attendance and stuff. I'm not used to telling people that if they can't come for some reason, it's okay. I'm not used to that. So I'm reprogramming. You know, I watched myself online in a video the other day, and it was a revelation. I was like, wow, for someone who doesn't ask questions much, there's no difference at all in watching the video. It felt completely live. People were laughing and other stuff, you know. So right now, if you can't come and you know, you have family issues or any good issues, I understand. I'm very glad that we have this type of semester that give us some kind of room to figure out what works for us in a complex world. This is something that's always on my mind. You know, you don't have any control of what's going on in the world, but you do have control about how you treat it and how you treat it. I wish I was out at the protests these last few days, but I'm glad that I didn't torch anybody's private business. So I'm going to shout and I'm going to complain and I'm going to support everyone who's complaining. And I'm going to ask people to stop torching private businesses. I don't even like them torching police cars because, did you see those police doing the knee? I cried, I have to admit it, because I've been saying for the last few days, the only way out of this is to get police in the police department to say, we've had it. I'm not defending these criminals anymore. Next time I see another cop do something like that, I'm going to take them on and risk my badge, you know, because I got to turn this department around. So to watch those cops take the knee like that, it was profound. And I mean, all the cops of color and their white friends, seriously, all of them, they have to make their own internal anti-racist movement within the police department so they can watch each other as they have always been doing. Right now, the honest cops are afraid, and that's why they're not saying anything, because they're also afraid. That's so messed up. That's just so messed up. I mean, there've been hero cops in the past who took on their whole department. Serpico, if you've never heard of him, risked his life and changed things, but he didn't change them enough. That's pretty clear. You know, so it's like, really, to be a cop watching this stuff thinking, man, oh, am I going to risk the food on the table for my kids? Well, I guess at this stage, yes. You took on the badge. You took on the gun. You know, you got to risk yourself. It's the field you chose. It's like a fireman, and he better be comfortable with fire.
Yeah.
Really. So anyway, how did I get off on that? I better stop. All right. Again, so I was actually responding to a chat just there. I wish your families are well. I know in my heart that they're not all well, right? Because that's New York and where New York's been. So whoever is maybe sick in your family or your friends, I wish them quick recovery. If you lost anyone, I wish your heart a quick recovery to that stage where you can remember that person with fondness. I lost several people last year, nobody to COVID. My nephew got COVID, but he beat it. But I lost several family members in 1 year, so I'm not a stranger to loss. What I look forward to is that stage when I start to smile. I remember this person, and I'm like, yeah. So I do this all the time. Those are my parents. I lost them, but I love them, and they make me smile. And so those of you who are suffering now, I'm not saying don't. I'm saying, yes, suffer now. This is the time to be honest to your heart and to grief, so that later on you can move forward and laugh when you remember. My parents were a riot. They really were in their day. And so now, no more tears. With patience. All right, Kenya, what can I do for you? In person.
So as you know, because I emailed you a week ago, that I actually wasn't on the roster in Blackboard.
I know. That's so bad. How did it go today?
Today it was. I knew what we were talking about because I watched the video from Wednesday. I still didn't catch up on Thursday's video because I watched it late at last night. But okay. I'm familiar with what we're talking about.
Gotcha. Are you on a phone right now, or because you're waiting for a computer, right?
I'm on I have a Chromebook.
You do. I see. So you could take the class, but you can't join. You could watch. Right.
So this is the situation about the computer. So I ordered a MacBook 2 weeks ago, and it's being delayed because of the COVID-19.
Oh,
so
that's
it's saying as of right now, from I'm tracking it, it's saying it's coming from tomorrow to the 9th. So I'm not sure which days it's coming.
Right.
But it's still supposed to be coming this week.
So, you know, I love your attitude.
I don't want to drop the class because I actually do enjoy the class.
Mm-hmm. So, Kenya, I got to tell you.
It's times, and you got to stay positive in this world.
I love your attitude, seriously. So you probably shouldn't drop this class. I mean, you got the right kind of, you know, stuff to take it on. So I just want to say something to everybody. So remember, it's not like you're behind on homework, right? And it's not like the homework or the attendance is going to attack you. As I said, there's a remote class and I'm creating new rules for it. So you're okay on those fronts. The only concern that I have is like some person gets a homework like 5 days after we've covered a subject and they have not got to try it yet. And then it's like, oh no, how hard is it going to be to try it late? but there are the videos. The midterm is going to be the biggest use of this. So I feel like since you're watching the videos and you're getting familiar, I think you're probably going to be okay. Thanks for keeping me posted. And the thing that I'm really glad to hear is you were wise and ordered that early, that computer. I mean, you definitely did your part.
It was a computer for my entertainment. It was supposed to be for my entertainment,
Oh.
but this class, I didn't know that you were supposed to have like I knew that you needed I needed to update my computer. It's just with the delay that's going on.
What's your
It's just
major?
getting on my nerves, low key.
What's your major?
My major is liberal arts. It's
I
liberal
see.
arts, but when I transfer, it's gonna be mass communications.
So listen, I want to say something to you, and that might relate to some others here too. One, I totally believe in liberal arts majors myself, and I wish we weren't so worried about money as a culture all the time, because liberal arts makes the wisest people in the long run. They know the most about the widest world, and I really believe in a holistic way of seeing. But it's difficult, right? I mean, everybody needs careers, so we always switch college and more in that direction. You're going to need a good computer just to be a 21st century person. But I will admit, most liberal arts style classes, a Chromebook would have been fine because they're mostly lectures. You know what I mean? And as long as you have a way to write your papers or whatever, you're fine. But in art classes, it's completely different. And the thing that I don't want to see happen, which really worries me, is art classes that use second-rate tools just to make sure more people can take it. But I'm not sure I want to be sure more people could take a class that isn't really at a professional level, in my opinion. So we'll see how fate unrolls. You got yourself a computer coming. Listen, I want to say something to everybody because I don't know if anyone else in here is having this problem. I know I had at least one person who's been quiet today. I really don't know how well the school's doing with getting these computers for everybody. So that's a little torture for me. And I don't know the rules about withdrawal. This is I almost lost my thought. I had asked my boss, what happens if we just can't get someone a computer in time and they can't get one in time? I told him, I want to know before the withdrawal deadline. I want to know that exact moment, so that I could tell them before, look, here's your big chance, withdraw. No great impact, no financial impact. But I didn't get that answer because everyone was so busy. No, let's just make it happen. Let's make sure they get what they need. I love that thinking, but I knew it wasn't realistic. So now I'm going to have to write back again and say, don't tell me that deadline passed. Anyway, Kenny, you already made your decision. So, and I think I'm with you. I think I'd make the same decision, to be honest. It's going to take some discipline, but I think you'll be okay.
I was like, I know what we're doing. I just don't have the
you got to get your hands on it.
software for it
That's all the
right
difference.
now.
I want to ask somebody else something.
So it's like a little bit.
That's a little nerve-wracking, but you're tough. It'll make you stronger because you're looking at it in a mature way. So right now you're going to have to mix that maturity with some faith. And I know that sounds hollow, but really kind of tell you the truth. I'm a big faith person, and I don't mean traditional faith. So I'm not talking about what you might hear in church or at the synagogue or the mosque or anything like that. I just mean large-scale faith. When fall comes, the autumn comes, I have faith in the spring because I've seen it all before. The ebb and flow of the water, I've seen it before. I know how this works. The worst times pass, the best times pass. So I have faith. You have faith in your strength. You made the right moves. Times are hard, but yeah, you're making the right moves. You'll make the right moves in my class also. That's my prediction. Faik, I wanted to ask you something. Are you there? I know you ordered a computer. I was wondering if you also know, is it arriving soon or do you know anything about it? I remember you told me you were also getting a computer.
Yes, sir. I mean, I'm just looking for it, but I didn't find anyone yet.
So you didn't choose one yet?
Yeah.
So listen, if you're really determined to do that, you really can't wait any longer. Because it's going to get harder. Like you were wise.
I'll do something in this, in this 1-2 days, for sure.
Yeah, because like I said, this is the same every class. I teach every class,
If you order from MacBook, it's going to take like 3 weeks for it to come.
So order from listen to her. I would take that advice.
Sorry?
I would take her advice and find a place that delivers fast. I'd choose your model, and then I'd probably go on Amazon.com and see who has it at a good price, who's willing to deliver it fast. You know,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I will do, of course, I will do.
John, did you just send that link out? Is that like a, what is it?
It's the website's called Newegg. They sell. I go to them for components for computers, but they usually have really good sales on laptops, and their shipping is usually within a week.
He's a smart fellow, this Jonathan guy. We're gonna tap him too. You guys have a lot to offer. I have to say, last week a bunch of you were kicking in really interesting information at the end of the class. A lot of people in this group know more about hardware than I do. You know, computers and other components. I'm definitely not a hardware guy. I don't even consider myself a software guy. I'm a making stuff guy. You know, but I definitely appreciate everyone's skill sets. So anyway, Faik, I know you're serious. I like your attitude, so I just don't want you to delay. The school's taking too long. The head of my department, who's really good, I read between the lines of the last email. He's like, well, things are taking a little bit longer than we'd hoped. And I translate that, and it doesn't translate too well. What that might actually mean in a more brutal, you know, way of speaking. So it really is right now just a couple people. Does anybody else have any other questions for me about, you know?
Oh, I got a question.
Shoot.
When it comes to the margins, is it always top right, bottom left?
It is always top right, bottom left. And in fact, I'm going to show you other things that make space. The other one's called padding, and it goes in the same order. But since you asked, can I show you something super fast? I just want to give you a peek at one quick thing. Because I really wanted to show you. Am I still screen sharing?
Yes.
I am. All right. So take a quick look at this. So top. Now right and left are the most important. I want to show you one other option. Check this one out. It's kind of interesting. That's 20% on the right, not pixels. Now I'm going to do the left, also 20%. What's interesting about this is that's a fifth of the screen, 20% on the left, and a fifth on the right. So that means I'm going to have 60% in the middle. That's the actual website. Check it out. So when the screen is small, I get a small margin. So I don't like this measurement anymore about the headlines acting a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
But the margin gets bigger and smaller on the right and left. It's always 1/5 of the screen though. So that's another option because that'll help it to work on a phone. That's a big margin though, so I'd probably make it much smaller, maybe half, 10% each. So this is 1/10. And this is 1/10. What I like about that is on a phone, that's a nice small margin, you know, because I don't have a lot of room for big margin. So I just wanted to mention. But yes, to answer your question, the order is always the same. So you could do one number means all four. But if you want to break it down, you know the order now.
Okay.
Any other questions for me? So folks, these are interesting kinds of office hours where I get a whole group. Marissa, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm like moving a bit ahead. So
Let's find out.
But about like I saw online that it said it's good to contain everything in like divs, and I also saw in a book things called like aside, like all these different tags.
Mm-hmm.
But I was confused on like which one's protocol or if
I have a very good answer for you about all that. So the first thing a person should learn, in my opinion, is how to work without a container, right? So in other words, this is a top-down website. You know, there's really no box containing it. You know, it's all in the body. A div, D-I-V, is a box. So if you're looking, say we're all looking in Zoom right now, right? I've got currently 9 boxes in front of me. If I needed to design something that looked like this, I need code to make those boxes, right? And they would be divs. Div, close div. Inside the div could be headlines, paragraphs, photographs, any combination of anything you could think of, but now you got a way to make separate boxes. So when you read a news website, for example, it's mostly boxes. Now the other kind of box you mentioned which is an aside, right? So people got tired of divs because they were like, man, I have 100 divs on my page because I got so many boxes. Somebody thought, yeah, but I always have this one that's kind of like not that important, secondary information. Let's make something, call it an aside. So all it is a div, but everyone gets to know it's not meant for important stuff.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of tags that are just like divs, but they're called semantic tags. I've been avoiding them myself, even though I probably shouldn't. We'll see how popular they get. It's not an old thing.
Okay.
So rather than using divs, they've got fancy names.
Yeah, I was confused on like if there's like a very specific protocol or if you kind of have all this freedom.
You do have a lot of freedom. So like what happens on a lot of websites is the home page is complicated and it might need lots of technology. And then the inside web pages are simpler. It could just be an article with one photo. And then there's no reason to make it complicated. You can make it beautiful with colors and fonts and other stuff. But when you need a complex design, and the word grid comes up a lot, you know, so it looks more like a magazine or a newspaper. It's kind of rows and columns. You're going to have to learn about div at that point. So I have to say your investigation is exactly in the right direction. It really is. Even though we're not going to get to cover a lot of that because we have all these other topics, I'm going to give some thought. Like, what's the best things for you to look at next? I really want to develop some really good advice for folks like yourself who want to know what's the next best step I could take. And it might be learning more about div and containers in general. It's a good question. What we're doing right now is rock solid, but it is very fundamental, foundational stuff. Any other questions?
No, I do have a comment.
Sure.
Link another website called Micro Center. They are more, it's a brick and mortar place, again with the components, but they usually have regular sales. I don't know if how their shipping is acting because of the whole virus situation, but I do know they have in-store pickup.
In New York?
Yes, they're only in New York.
So, you know, also guys, like, don't be afraid of getting these companies' phone numbers, you know, like, you know, sometimes it's worth getting a call back before you find out that they're delayed 2 weeks or that they're going to close that day because someone got sick, you know. So like, I'm really big on the phone these days because I really want to know before I go out that I have a chance of succeeding. But thanks again, John. Your tips are useful. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? Folks, I'm going to sign off then. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. See you, Andy. See you, Faik. See you, Jessica.
Thanks, Professor. Have a
Marissa,
wonderful afternoon.
John.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.